I just got dressed. It's 12:30, midday in the UK, and I am on a 3-day event that is taking place on US timing. So I was awake, wide awake, because the energy was amazing, until 2 a.m. last night, and then buzzing in bed. So yeah, I allowed myself a very slow morning. It was really nice actually because I had time to read my notes from the event, which sounds very simple but is a massively hot tip. I know that so many people go to hundreds of events, leave them feeling excited, close the notebook, and never look at them again. And taking that time to read what you were inspired to write down during the event and let it go in at that deeper level, and in between the days as well, right? So I read my notes from yesterday, I'll arrive today more primed, having processed more than if I hadn't taken that time. So it's actually worked really nicely to be attending from sort of 2 p.m. till 2 a.m., having the slow morning to read my notes and get to lie in, quite frankly. And I've got these beautiful flowers here. They're from being a roundtable mentor for one of many recently at both Be Fulfilled and Be Wealth. And it was really interesting to me at Be Wealth because I was, thinking like, what can I bring as my roundtable topic that's going to be useful for these women here at an event that's very specifically about money and about wealth and about becoming wealthy. And I don't do anything well, I do lots of practical things in that realm in terms of marketing, which brings you clients, which brings you money. So there's that very, very obvious angle. But this was an event at one of many, and their other event, Be Fulfilled, is where we talk about how to make money. This was about how to manage it, how to multiply it, how to invest it. And so there were financial advisors there, and there were property investors there, and people that approach it in that sense practically, which is not my skill set. But my skill set is the inner work required to allow yourself to become and be seen as a wealthy woman, and everything that is laden with, whether true or not, in our culture, in our minds, in the stories we grew up with, and how to move through those fears, those unhelpful stories about what money means in order to let yourself show up, shine bright, and in a way where you're not in a constant inner battle. Because I hear this under the language of a lot of entrepreneurs, is that they have reached a level of success, but they're in constant inner battle with the part of them that still doesn't think that's possible even though it's real, or B, worries that means that they're greedy or selfish or out of touch, or are now a nasty person, right? Because rich people are nasty, or believes people are going to hate them because of it. All these thoughts that if we let them have rent in our heads, take so much energy and time that, frankly, if you're running a successful business, you do not have, right? There simply is so much to do. There's so much to do. Anyone that says otherwise is lying. There's so much that needs doing. Under everything that goes out there, right? The bits that are seen, there's the thinking that got the person there. There's the decision making, like 50 decisions behind every action that ends up happening. There's all the little tasks that have to happen in order for that to happen, and will have to happen afterwards in order for that to make sense as a strategy. Just so much. And while we're carrying along with us fears of being seen and what that might mean, right? The danger, the potential danger of that, of being judged, attacked, ridiculed, criticized, rejected. Oh my God, it's heavy. And it makes doing the do extremely hard, to the point where many do not do the do. They just don't get there. And they don't always know consciously that the reason that they're not doing the do is that they're holding on to these fears of what it might mean to be successful, to be a successful woman. And so we had this amazing round table. We had really beautiful, intimate discussions. And really interestingly to me, and I'm going to loop back to this later for you, what you can very specifically take from this in terms of a strategy, right, for you, for growing your business, for what to offer, etc., and who for. What I noticed was that I was getting all of these questions about how to move through the fear, about what it takes, about how to start sharing your voice on social media, your true voice, your unedited voice, what to do about concerns that so-and-so might see it, what will my mum think, what will my friend from school think, what will my past kind of spiritual group think that I'm not sort of so affiliated with. All of these questions, which were very much a strong accompaniment to the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, were there again, right? And what I realized was, because I've grown so much, over the years, and in some ways very fast, in other ways very slow, depends how I'm feeling on the day as to how I judge that. But inner world-wise, I am unrecognizable to myself, in terms of the amount of freedom that I have inside. And so those kinds of conversations simply are no longer front of mind for me. But what I realized, while having this conversation and witnessing the impact of this conversation, and how much I enjoyed having that conversation and having so much to offer that was just sort of, like pulled from the vast life experiences of everything it has taken to get to where I am, that these topics are still incredibly relevant and needed. So as a result of that, I've made a really big, I hesitate to use this word because it's like it got so used in the past few years, but I'm doing a mini pivot. I always think of Ross and Friends when I hear that word, pivot. And I'm going to bring back a course that I have not taught since 2019. And that course is called Share the Magic Inside. And it is all about how to reveal the real you, and then getting to revel in your revenue. That was the old tagline. I don't think I'm going to use that any longer, but it's quite fun to say still. So one of the the main conversations we had at this table was about how to start sharing your voice, and I want to talk a little bit about that with you now, because what I actually had one of the women do, at this table was, I just said to her, so you're at this event right now, you're learning tons, right? Let's say afterwards you go to meet up with a friend, like really good friend. Where would you go first of all? She said the pub. I was like, okay, so imagine you're at the pub. What would you order? A glass of wine. Okay, so you're sat in the pub with your friend and a glass of wine, and you're just telling her about your experience of the past few days. That's it. Go. right? And she just spoke for 2-3 minutes, and I sat back and I looked around the table, and not everyone, because not everyone will, but the majority of the people there were leaning in, like were, eyes sort of engaged, fascinated. And all she was doing was very naturally, in a very relaxed way, chatting about her experience and some things that she'd realized and things that she'd learned. And then just a couple of days ago with a client, she was reflecting how she's been sharing her voice on social media, and it's not anything businessy or coachy, right? She's just sharing her thoughts, her opinions, her perspectives on things, her life. And what I've noticed is these posts are getting such intimate engagement. Not just engagement, right? Engagement's like the buzzword. Everyone wants engagement. There's one thing to get, 50 fire signs under your post. It's quite another to have people respond that you moved them, that they are realizing something about their own life through the generosity of what you're sharing, right? That you've actually moved them. And that is what happened when my client just let herself share her voice. Right? 2 different examples, but both of them just being themselves, not trying to teach anything, prove anything, give content, right? Here are my 3 steps, none of that. Just sharing. And both of them, one in person and one online, was met with attention, with engagement. And then when I was with the people in person around the table, I asked, I checked in to those listening, like, how was that for you? And they all said, it was fascinating. I wanted to know more. Like, can you keep going? Which is exactly what you're looking for, right? I want more. Keep going. And then, that's your next step, right? And there's a prize point on it because you're in business, not charity. But that's different. That's sales. We're talking about marketing right now. So this is how, right? It's so simple. It's so simple. And people make it so much more complicated than it needs to be. And especially at the beginning, and when I say beginning, I mean, first 1, 2, 3 years, right? You don't know who your ideal client is. You don't know. There is 0 way for you to know that with any truth. But when you let yourself show up, share authentically, and then you notice who's coming, what the connections are between these people, what the themes are, right, or the threads, and you ask them questions. You get curious, super curious. Not surface level curious, deep, 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 specific curious. And, tactically, that means asking questions. It means doing surveys. It means asking people to come on calls with you and asking them questions about what they're experiencing in the area in which you work, and not stopping until you get something specific. So again, at the event I'm on at the moment, it's called Driven with Suzanne Evans. And it's a great event. It's great. Like, her content is so good. And she really knows her stuff. All right, she's a 7-figure business owner. She's been in business for, I think, coming up 20 years. She's hot stuff. She's also hilarious and very straight, which I absolutely love. What was my point? Is that the event, I was up till 2, so I'm going to give myself a little leeway on forgetting where I was today. Was at the event. Come on, brain. Come on. Oh yeah, I got it. Okay, so we're working on messaging, and we had a little breakout room, and there were about 3 people there who, when they shared their message that they'd crafted, I had no idea still what they did. And so I asked them some questions about it. I'd done a talk, was a speaker at the event, which was super fun, and as a result, it's a 3-minute speech, and has resulted in hundreds of new newsletter signups, which is amazing, right? Great return on investment. 3 minutes, hundreds of signups. I would do that again every day. So I'd spoken about messaging, and being your authentic self, and not worrying about what other people think, because they're the wrong people for you, and focusing, on those that you love, right? So this is how you get to those that you love. And so these couple of people shared their message, and I still had no idea what they did, what they actually did. And when I asked them questions, they talked about how hard it was because they worked holistically, right? And because they were energy healers, and because they were very spiritual. And I shared with them, I said, I work holistically. I'm very spiritual. It's an intrinsic part of my life and how I understand the world and people and myself. And I work with energy, right? In every client session, one-on-one or group, I'm working with energy. I'm feeling it, right? It's a part. I can't extricate that ability to feel energy from now we're writing your bio, or now we're working on your TED Talk, so I will now remove my ability to feel energy. No, it's part of the power. It's part of the power. In fact, with my Wild Voice facilitators that I am training, the first cohort this year, we're in conversation around how do you as an individual feel what has power, right? And for me, I feel it in many different ways. Often it's almost as if when the person is speaking, the volume has suddenly been turned up. I hear it louder. They haven't spoken more loudly. It lands in me more loudly, with more power, right? With more prominence. I am important. That's what it says. Pay attention to this. I also feel it in my body. It depends what it is, but often I'll feel it in the lower half of my body, or I'll feel it bringing me more deeply into my body, which is a great experience. I love that. And of course, the truth tingles. We all love the truth tingles. And so my ability to feel energy, my understanding of myself, as a spiritual being, on this earth at this time, for a reason, right? That belief is crucial and intrinsic to my work, but I don't put it front and center in my messaging, when I meet new people, because our brains need something to land on. So if I meet someone and they spend 5 minutes telling me about how they're really holistic, and they don't just work with the mind, they work with the mind and the body and the soul. First of all, to be just completely transparent, what I'm thinking is, yeah, everyone does, right? Because I grew up in you know, seeing energy healers since I was 7, like that is such a familiar, the world of holistic healing to me is just like so natural that, and it is now, like it's become very, very normal, which is brilliant. We should all be very pleased that there's way more forms of healing available, and understanding about what healing actually is available is brilliant. But what that means is saying you work holistically is no longer unique, right? It's no longer like, ooh, weird, interesting. It just is. So it's not enough. So that's the first thing. The second, so then they'll carry on often. I'll be like, and you know, and I work with people, and they might be overweight or underweight, and they might be like trying to come off medication, or and I can help them with that because it's a mindset thing, but you know, it's also a body thing. But I can't promise I can do that because you know, I'm not a doctor, and my brain is like, what just happened? I don't know where to go. I don't have something to land on, and my overwhelming feeling is one of confusion. And again, if I'm being just completely transparent, like this wouldn't happen if I was there in a work scenario and I was trying to help this person. But if I was networking and I just met this person, I'd be like, and especially if I was, you know, a bit tired, or had already been, you know, working that whole week and then gone out, for example, I'd be like, oh, I need you to stop talking. That's just my complete truth. Versus what we want the response to be, which is, ooh, tell me more, right? Which is what happened in those 2 earlier scenarios. So share your voice unedited. Like, that's so important that you don't self-edit based on the imaginary fear of what other people might think. People who are never going to be your right clients. And as long as you're editing yourself based on those imaginary opinions of what other people might think, you are invisible to your really right clients, right? The people that want you to be you, to be transparent, to tell them the truth in your unique way. See who responds, right? Going through a recap now. See who responds. Look for the themes that connect them. This is how I got to sensitivity as a part of my main message. I didn't choose that. It arrived. You know, even helping people build their businesses, right? Their purpose-led businesses. I didn't consciously choose that. It was a journey of arrival. So I did start out as an energy healer and a yoga teacher. And it was fun. I wasn't making a ton of money, but I was making enough to get by and, you know, run off traveling whenever I could and then come back and start again, which eventually got too stressful when I was like, I need to do something about this and, you know, change this habit. And what was happening while I was doing energy healing and yoga teaching was that more and more people were coming up to me after the classes or during the energy healing sessions and saying, these sessions have helped me realize, and then the next thing that they would say would be something about purpose and vocation. Again and again and again. You know, people quit their jobs and started being self-employed. People started writing books full of their message for the world. And what I noticed, right, always gotta notice the signs along the way. What I noticed was that those moments lit me up so much more than someone being able to do their first handstand, right? It was kind of cool, but I don't really care. Unless it was someone who'd been psychologically preventing themselves from getting into a certain pose, then I cared. Right? So there was that little nuance there as well that I noticed. I was like, oh, if it's just about kind of helping them get stronger and learn the right sort of proprioception and, you know, literally limbs in the right place, I didn't really care. If I looked at someone and I'd be like, I know you can do that pose. There is zero physically preventing you from doing that pose. It's only your perception of your inability to do that pose, and then they could do the pose, and I'd be like, yes. So there was that clue as well. Like, so there's something about helping people believe in themselves, helping people move through those blocks that are imaginary into something that they want, right? Like that these people would want to be able to get into full wheel, for example, but think that they couldn't. I remember actually, one specific student, Hannah, and she was an older lady and she didn't think she had the strength. And I watched her in other asanas and through the vinyasas, and I was like, Hannah, you absolutely can. And we spent a couple of sessions, and I would, help her, like come and, gosh, it was a long time ago, like a decade ago. But, come and like stand so that she could hold my ankles with her feet. And then I could help her a little bit. And she did it. Right? She was just so happy to have proven herself wrong, to have proven those limiting beliefs about herself, about her body, about her strength wrong. And those moments were really inspiring. So this is part of the noticing phase, right? Notice what lights you up, and notice who responds. What they say about you is inspiring or interesting or revelatory, or what is moving them, what they're thanking you for. Pay attention to what people thank you for, and what they ask you, right? And really pay attention, because the words they use are your future marketing. If that excites you, right? If that feels correct for you. And use their language. Use their language. And, I was talking about one of the tactics being research calls, actually getting on the phone. And so these couple of women at the event yesterday that were using very vague language and saying that the problem that they had in being able to niche or define their message was that they were holistic, right? Or an energy healer, and so they could heal anything. And I get it, but are you currently attracting everyone? Like, is that a problem that you have? Is that a fantastic problem that you have, that everyone is coming to your online door and trying to pay you and they can't get in because you're too busy? No. So you're going to need to make some decisions, right? And so it's always about looking at what comes after. So I said, when you speak to your clients, what do they tell you you've helped them with? And one of them said, well, they go away feeling more empowered, right? So in her messaging, she had, I help women feel empowered. To do what? To do what? Because for some women, they might get empowered and they might go home and set boundaries with a partner, right? For other women, they might get empowered and they might go and ask for that raise. Other women might get empowered and they might stop giving away their gifts for free, right? And they're three potentially very different women. And one of those messages will speak to someone and the other won't. But I help women feel empowered is too vague. It's too amorphous. I'm sure there's always more empowerment to get to, but I feel pretty empowered, so I would not respond to that message. However, let's think, what might I respond to? If someone said, I help you feel empowered to where am I yet to be empowered? It would have to be very specific at this point. Something like, oh, this is really interesting actually. What would it be? Empowered to, you know what actually is the truth? And I noticed, this is one of my realizations yesterday about myself. I noticed that one of the places I have let what other people think still impact me is the voices of people that say, that kind of demean business owners who talk about money. Who are like, oh, talking about six figures is so boring. I'm like, there is nothing boring about getting to six figures. It's freaking awesome to get to six figures while doing work you love and then growing a team of people you adore that you get to spend time with, and you get to plan your day how you like, and you get to put boundaries in your calendar, and you get to do work with people that you've chosen because you've done your marketing really well, and you have the money flowing in to go on holiday and go and learn windsurfing. That is not to be sniffed at. And obviously then the next kind of word, come on word, the next like industrial word, place to get to is like the holy grail of seven figures, right? So what I realized was I let the voice, that other people might say voice, come in and go, no, but you can't tell people publicly that you want to get to seven figures because that's like boring. Isn't that funny what our brains do? Like they'll think you're either like you're just in it for the money, or that's not very spiritual, or that's just because that's what everyone else is doing. I'm like, no, I want it. I personally, irrespective of what the industry says is the next step, feel like that would be a really fun next goal. Right? So I realized like that's a place where I'd still been listening, paying attention to the what other people think voice instead of my own desires. And for me, I really do see business building and life building, growing, shaping, exploring as a game. Like it's a game that we came here to play, and we get to play it our way. So whatever milestones feel fun for you, go for them, no matter what anyone else is saying. So there we go. That's the honest answer to that question. If someone was to lay out a really, really brilliant, deep, held, powerful container, and their messaging was around empowering you to get free enough to get to seven figures, that would be inspiring to me. If they were the right person, if the rest of the kind of tapestry of their marketing spoke to me, then that would be inspiring. So there we go. That's one example, right? That's my example. But make sure in your messaging that you're specific. So with this lady, we suggested that she go back to those people that she'd spoken to, who'd told her, when I go away, I feel empowered, and that she specifically asked them, and what did you then do differently? Because that's where the gold is, in specific, tangible, literally life-changing examples. What did you do that you wouldn't have done previously? What did you do differently as a result of feeling empowered? Who did you speak to you might not otherwise have spoken to? Where did you speak up you might not otherwise have spoken up? What did you ask for that you might not otherwise have asked for? What did you allow yourself to receive that you might not otherwise have allowed yourself to receive? What changes did you make to your schedule? What changes did you make to how you take care of yourself? How did your relationships change? How did your bank balance change? Right, specific, specific, specific. I think often we think that if we go really specific, then we will have other people go, oh, well, I don't need that, so I'll walk away. But the title of today's Mesmerizing Messaging is Keep It Simple and Sexy, which you do by keeping it simple. Because when it's simple, people's brains can land on it. They're not going, hang on a minute. So it's empowerment, but also self-care, also money. But also, what was someone else? Someone else had this example, and I was like, it's like 7 different things, right? So when we keep it simple, people's brains can land on it. They can get it. It's more easily rememberable, it's more easily referable, it's more easily remembered in the moment when that is what they need. But it is also, in general, to other people, more attractive. Even if it's not on the nail what they need, it's still more sexy than a zillion different things. It's the same with confidence, for example. If someone's saying like, oh, I help people get more confidence. To be able to do what? Right? If we say we're in the realm of transformation, of doing life-changing work, of healing, then there should be some very tangible impact as a result of that. So what is that for you? So I've spoken about a lot today, and I'm going to take it back and just recap so it's really simple for you. So instead of trying to work out in your head who your avatar is, which is all made up, let yourself naturally show up and share your voice online. It doesn't need to be businessy, it doesn't need to be coachy, it doesn't need to be your 10 steps to anything. Authentic. Imagine you're in the pub, or if for you it would be a cafe, whatever. Imagine you're there with a friend who gets you, and you're just sharing about your experience, moments of your life. Let people in, little snippets, little story snippets. Notice who that attracts. Right? Look for the common themes, commonalities, and then go deeper. Ask questions. See who responds. Notice what they are asking you for. Notice what they are thanking you for. If you need to, if you're at the point where this is really important for you, do research calls, and don't let them off the phone until you've got some specifics, some tangible outcomes. I honestly think I could have sped up my business growth by about 3 years if I'd got that earlier. I really do. I think this was a missing piece for me for a long time. Get specific. It doesn't mean you're going less deep, it means you're going deeper. It means you're going to be better at helping these people, because you will really be an expert in helping them, in what it takes. And note it down, right? Record it, note it down, and use their language in your marketing, and especially at the point of sale, right? When you're talking about challenges and when you're talking about benefits. use their language. But at the beginning, right, in your broadcasting to the world, use your language. Use your voice. Because that's the only way that you'll attract people to you who want you to be you. And then you can get more strategic along the way and make sure that what you're sharing with these people, what you're offering them, right, what you're saying about how you can help them is specifically targeted to them, where they're at and what they need. And that's how you'll get to make money with your magic.